It's one of the legal consequences of being convicted of a drunken driving offense, the condition that you have an ignition interlock device installed. Experts say they're effective in preventing further drunk driving, but not everyone who is supposed to have one actually does. It's another part of 7 Investigate's ongoing series, Over the Limit. Bree Bilek joins us now. Is this not enforced like we all assumed it would be, Bree?
No, it's not, Dale. The responsibility of getting an ignition interlock device installed falls on the person convicted. From what I learned, that responsibility has little oversight. Other than Huber inmates, the process and compliance is up to the individual to install the interlock device. That means they also need to maintain it and use it. So what happens if a person is ordered to get an ignition interlock device but doesn't? Data shows that happens a lot. Since 2020 in Portage County alone, 217 people were cited for driving a vehicle without an IID.
We do see where maybe the driver has failed to install the interlock device.
In Marathon County during the same time period, 300 people were charged. That's because the ignition interlock requirement condition is only associated with a person's driver's license and not their license plate. So a law enforcement officer would only know this if they pulled the driver over. Numbers show offenders skip having it installed or choose to drive a different vehicle. Why don't people get them installed? One reason could be the cost. Even at the low end, it costs about $65 a month, plus the installation costs. With a range of 12 to 36 months, those costs could add up. In Minnesota, there's another option instead of the IID. Repeat offenders, or those who drove drunk with their children, may be issued a special license plate. It starts with the letter W and are called whiskey plates. Before 2003, officers were allowed to stop a vehicle with whiskey plates for any reason. That's no longer the case, but whiskey plates still carry a stigma and catch the eyes of officers. However, a lobbyist from Mothers Against Drunk Driving says the plates do little to prevent drunk driving.
But it's not going to stop somebody from driving drunk. It makes for a good news headline, but it makes no sense.
In Wisconsin, a person could be required to get an IID even at a first offense if their blood alcohol content was greater than 0.15 or they refused a breathalyzer at the scene. An IID is then required as part of sentencing for subsequent drunk driving offenses.
The legislature, in their wisdom, has determined that this is one way of potentially preventing someone from starting the car in the first place.
Judge Louis Milepsky says the devices can help some people.
I would say anecdotally that this device, from my personal perspective, seems to have a prophylactic effect for some people.
Lieutenant Joe Johnson with the Stevens Point Police Department says the interlocks work.
The interlock devices are pretty effective, so if someone has that in their vehicle and they're driving by themselves, they're not under the influence. Otherwise, the vehicle wouldn't be operating correctly for them. It wouldn't run.
A recovery care specialist at North Central Healthcare says devices like interlocks can help prevent a person from driving under the influence. They say it can be a good way to pause and think before getting behind the wheel after consuming alcohol. However, they say it's not going to solve an addiction problem. Recovery services will.